Hello, good day readers. I'm back with another book review, this time featuring the book Otogi Zoshi. The book name is Otogi Zoshi Fairy Tales Book of Dazai Osamu. Of course, the author name is Osamu Dazai, and he is a well-known, renowned author. Otogi Zoshi, this general term, refers to the compilation of literature written from Muromachi to early Edo era. This book is specifically short compilation of Japanese folk tales and fairy tales, but reimagined in a unique perspective, adding a deeper meaning and provoking thought and message to all these fantasy tales, all these fairy tales. This book was published in 1945. You all know that Japan was struggling during that time, and Dazai wrote these stories while hiding in bunkers with his family. So this tale serves as a distraction from war horrors, and it provides a unique interpretation of well-known Japanese folk stories. Since as a reader I was also not aware of these stories, it gave me a very different perspective on these folk tales which were heard by Japanese people way in their childhood. So let's jump into the stories. So the first story is called as The Stolen Ven. It's a captivating tale about an old man with a ven, a noticeable growth on his cheek. The old man was always ignored by his family, not treated well, but he is still happy and cherishes his ven as if it is God's gift. The author even mentions it like he treats his ven like a grandchild, which is funny. One fateful day, while wandering in a drunk state, he goes to the forest and encounters Ogre, and they steal his ven. The old man becomes sad and feels empty because of his lost ven. Similarly, there is a situation where another old man hates his ven, doesn't want it, and wants to get rid of it, and comes to know about the old man who has lost his ven. He thinks that okay, if that guy can get rid of his ven, I can too. I hate it. But he goes to the forest, and somehow things happen, twists happen. It's the story in the detail, but he ends up with two wins, which is very funny and very humorous and thought-provoking story to start this book. And Dazai's playful narration makes this entertaining. So first story is really good. The second story, which is my favorite one, the second story is called as Urashima-san. It's a This story defines the author's style of writing. Dialogues between the characters feels like we are listening to two philosophers in discussion. Never in I have experienced fantasy and folk tales having philosophical discussions and thought-provoking conversations. But this story begins with Urashima-san, a noble man who considers himself above his family and everyone, a bit narcissistic. The story begins when Urashima-san actually rescues a tortoise who can speak. Yes, a tortoise who can speak from children. They were playing with him. Then, as a return, the tortoise offers him a trip to the Dragon Palace, which is deep below the sea. Of course, this is a fantasy tale. So, initially he was reluctant, but then eventually he accepts it and experiences the palace's serene pleasures and meets up an ocean princess. Upon his return, he was gifted a souvenir, and the princess tells not to open that souvenir until a certain condition is met. But the greedy and narcissistic Urashima-san, as soon as he returns back to the shore, opens up the box of the souvenir, and at the same instant he gets converted into a 300-year-old man. Which is, you cannot imagine and you cannot perceive, but this is how it goes. The story concludes with Urashima-san sad, who once thought himself very high of himself, very high in manner, realizing that he has lost his most precious possession, his time and age. It's deeply thought-provoking, but the witty conversation between Tortoise and the Urashima-san and the narration makes it an entertaining story to read. The third story is called as Click Clack Mountain. This I felt a little boring and less engaging as compared to the other stories, but still it offers some good humor, and definitely the author breaks fourth wall in this as well. So this story revolves around a goofy and lazy tanuki. Tanuki is Japanese raccoon dog, and a beautiful yet revengeful rabbit maiden. This clumsy tanuki falls for the rabbit. He falls in love and tries to do anything out of his extent to impress that rabbit. but he ends up harming an old woman. The rabbit then seeks revenge on this tanuki in a very deadly and dark manner. So, this particular story deals about how misfortunes can come across anytime to anyone. This is a even though the tanuki doesn't seem the villain here, still he deserved something, and he did wrong. So things are not going on, things were not going on his way. Although not as compelling as his previous story, but the chapter adds a darker, humorous twist to the collection. The fourth story is The Sparrow Who Lost Her Tongue. It's a melancholic and thought-provoking tale that ends that ends the book on a very powerful note. It begins with a man in his mid-40s living the life of an old, disengaged man, while his wife, though only 33, seems equally aged. Their mundane life and their mundane existence changes when a sparrow suddenly begins to visit the man. And the man forms a very lovely bond with the sparrow. He feeds regularly and talks to her. One day, the sparrow started speaking, and this man was happy as ever. Whatever bond he had formed, now he can speak to that sparrow. However, his wife becomes jealous and pulls and cuts the throat of the sparrow, and the sparrow flies away with sorrow. The old man, being sad, goes on a hunting mode to search for the sparrow, and after that, after his adventures, they reunite. Once they reunite, he comes back and tells his adventure with his wife. Her disbeliefs led her to forest where she meets a tragic end. The story highlights human folly, the consequences of jealousy and disbelief. This man eventually, the thing is, this man has lost something but has gained something. So the end I will not reveal, but he gains something. This final tale is very emotional and it contains very tragic elements, but beautifully concludes the book, leaving a lasting impression on the reader. So these four stories, even though it is a fantasy and folk tales, even though reading it would make no sense to you, but the reading style and the writing style of the author makes it more compelling to read. So overall, I give 4 out of 5 to this book, mainly due to one story that I didn't find that much interesting. That's my opinion. But the author, his writing style deserves 5 out of 5 for his engaging writing style, thought-provoking dialogue, commentary, narration, and the questions that he puts forward to the readers at the end of the story. He skillfully reminds us that he is reading these stories to his children, thus provoking and giving a message. Even though at the hard times where he was struggling during war, he is closed down in a bunker, he is trying to write these stories. So the background knowing that the origination of this book come from such a dark background makes it more appreciated. And the characters that are portrayed by this author are very much relatable. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I'll plan to read more from Osamu Dazai. So I'll conclude this and I'll review another book. Stay tuned. Bye.